We are live and we are back. We were on vacation in July. We're both teachers, and it's Brazil. We have the teachers' vacation month, winter break. So we took a little break from our X Files retro review, but we're back. I hope you missed us. I hope you really did. How you doing, Pete?
Not bad.
Good, good, good. Yeah, I'm doing all right. If anybody wants to know what we did on our vacation, watch our last episode of the Brazil Expat Journal, which is the other show that we do on this channel every other Monday. But we try to keep our X Files to a weekly basis as much as possible. Although I was just mentioning to Pete that the end of this season creeped up on us. At least it creeped up on me real quick as far as the podcast. And I thought we had another like 2, 3 weeks before we would get into the movie, but technically it would be next episode. So what may happen is that what I want to get somebody on who actually, before I say all that, because I always forget to do this at the beginning, like and subscribe to the page. Thank you, our loyal listeners. We get this nice little chunk of listeners, which is so cool. So thanks for hanging out with us for an hour or so. When we come on, it's really fun. And leave some comments below, guys. I mean, you do watch, but you don't leave a lot of comments. So, tell us what your favorite or least favorite episodes of the batches that we talk about are. But like I was about to tell Pete, I wanted to get somebody on to watch the movie with us who's not an X Files fan or maybe has just never seen the X Files. We tried to get one friend of ours to do it, but he wasn't really beat because he just wasn't a fan. He tried watching the first bits of season one and it just didn't grab him. So okay, whatever. So then I reached out to somebody else thinking, hey, we're only gonna do the movie like in 2, 3 weeks. It's next fucking week. So he's on vacation right now, and he said he's gonna try. We may record it on an off date because of this, Pete. So just so we'll try to accommodate his schedule if he's up for it. Because I think it would be cool. Because my main thing with the movie is, does it work if you're not an X Files fan? Because I went into it as a bona fide X Philly. Like I watched this show from day one, so I was pumped for this movie. But I'm curious as to whether or not it works as a standalone movie. I think the second one works a little bit better as a standalone, but I don't know about Fight the Future as much as I like Fight the Future a bit more than I want to believe. So I'm curious if we can get him on. That would be really cool. So maybe we'll have a show next week. Maybe we won't because I don't want to go into season 6 without reviewing the movie first because it all connects. Like even at the start of season 6, they show previously on the X Files and they show clips from the movie. So it's a direct a line from one to the other. So we shall see, guys. We shall see what we'll do with that. And hello, viewer. So tonight we have a whole lot to talk about. We're gonna review the last 5 episodes of season 5, which are the oh my god, give me a second here. It's Mind's Eye, and then All Souls, and then the Pine Bluff variant, Folia Du, I guess that's how you pronounce that, and The End. So we're gonna do that, and then after that, we'll do our usual skip and watch list. And then after that, we're just going to give you like a season, our feelings on the season plus our top 8. So this is one of those packed nights because it's the last one of the season. So I hope you are cozy there wherever you are, and you hang with us, okay? So let's get to it, Pete. Are you
Sure.
ready? Are you ready for this? So we're going to begin with episode 16, Mind's Eye. Mulder and Scully investigate a murder for whom the prime suspect is a woman who cannot see. Okay? She has been blind from birth and who may have a strange connection to the real killer. And this episode was written by Tim Minier, directed by Kim Manners, has an 8.0 rating on IMDb, pretty good rating. And it's got a really great guest star in
Yeah,
the
Lily Taylor.
what's her name again?
Lily Taylor.
Yeah, Yes, who plays Marty Green. And Lily Taylor, she is famous for, um, she's got a lot of character roles and a lot of independent movies. So if you were like
Yeah, she thinks she
kid in
first
the
became
90s,
famous for Dogfight, movie she did with River Phoenix. It was kind of
hmm
like an indie darling movie. And she was in 6 Feet Under as well.
I remember her from I Shot Andy Warhol. She was really good
Oh,
in
okay.
that. Um, High Fidelity, the 2001.
Yes, yes.
Um, Let me see here. Some other stuff. Oh, The Conjuring. Oh yeah, she was in The Conjuring. Um, so she's been in a lot of stuff, guys. And if you're just from the '90s and you were into like indie movies, she is like the indie movie darling. A little bit like she reminds me of the '90s version of what's the girl that ended up being in The Mandalorian that played the Jedi. I always forget her name, and I have like a super crush on her. She was in Clerks too.
Oh, like Rosie Dawson, Rosario
Yeah,
Dawson.
something Dawson. Blah, 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 blah. Wait, I gotta look up her name now because I have
Yeah, I
so
think
many
it's
other
Rose.
questions.
I think it's Rosario.
Rosario Dawson. Oh my God, this girl. She reminds me of one of my first girlfriends I had in high school. So cute. I have a mega crush on her. But yes, Rosario was kind of like that, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe she's made it to the big time with that role in The Mandalorian because she is so cool. Um, so anyway, I'm gonna let Pete go on this one because I've talked enough, and give me your thoughts on The Mind's Eye, Peter.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of Lily Taylor's as well, not just from those indie movies she did, but also from her role on 6 Feet Under. And yeah, she plays a great character here. She's a blind woman, blind since birth, but she has, she's kind of got a chip on her shoulder. She's kind of isolated herself socially from the rest of the world, and we first meet her as a murder suspect. She's been found in this hotel room where a man has been found stabbed to death, and they believe, the police do, that she's the killer. But how can she be the killer if she's blind?
Pete, I'm gonna
Um,
interrupt you. I'm gonna interrupt you. Sorry, just a little bit. Can you just get a little closer? Because your sound is great, but your volume is a little low. Because so
okay,
just get real close to that mic. Because I had the same issue with the last podcast we did. Like your sound was great, but your voice was really low. So get real
okay,
close to that mic.
yeah. So, at any rate, the police believe that she has like a sixth sense or something, that allows her to sense where people are and kill them. But we get Marty's point of view as well, that she can see things through the killer's eyes. So we find out who the killer is. The challenge that she has is, well, it's largely herself. She's stubborn. She doesn't want help. She doesn't want to be involved in this, but she can't really help it. Mulder, of course, being Mulder, he figures it out, and much of the episode is his struggle to reach her, and it largely involves finding out why she is connected to this killer. It turns out that she has like a personal connection to the person who is carrying out these crimes, and it's basically Mulder trying to break down her defenses and her wrestling with her sense of responsibility. Um, Great episode, mostly for this character and the way it unfolded, the way it revealed this connection between Marty and the killer. And also, there was a nice tip of the hat to a great Audrey Hepburn movie in there, Wait Until Dark, which was a movie about a blind woman being terrorized by a home invasion. So they kind of tip the hat to that as well. But yeah, solid episode, great performance by Lily Taylor, good story. Few complaints. I wouldn't say it was like one of my favorites of the season, but really solid.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty solid too, and I did want to give a shout out also to this episode for, or not for, but to Blue Mankuma, mostly a voice actor. He's been in a bunch of cartoons. I'm looking at his IMDb thing here, and it's just even like from My Little Pony to the League of Super Evil, GI Joe, He Man. He's done everything. Um, but he played Detective. I think his name was Pencock, something like this. It was in the X-Men Evolution TV series. Oh wow. Um, Let me just see here his name in the in this episode. Do you remember? I think it was Detective Pennock. Detective Pennock.
Ah, yeah.
Um, and real cool. Actually, he played Claude Peterson in Ghost in the Machine in the 1993 episode. So recurring actor there. Oh, let me flip that over. Um, And I'm with you. I thought it was a solid Monster of the Week. I gave it 3.5 stars. At the same time, I said it's not classic, but Marty makes the movie. She make not makes the movie, but she makes the episode, and she actually got nominated for an Emmy
She
Award
did. She
for
was
this
nominated
episode.
for an Emmy. That makes
Yeah,
two nominations in that category for the X Files this season.
yeah. Lily Taylor was nominated for an Emmy Award in 1998. And I think, yeah, for editing, yeah, editor Casey O'Rourke also received an Emmy nomination for his work in this episode, and just had a great build up, and I was invested in the character, and I also really liked the ending. I mean, it was really depressing, but it worked. I mean, it worked for her character, and what the story was leading up to, which is who she's connected to. So I won't give any spoilers for this one, in case you've never seen it. But you're kind of it kind of does come as a shock when you realize, oh, she's connected to this guy. So cool episode, dug it all the way around. So now we're gonna move to episode 17, which is called All Souls, and this is one interesting episode. This becomes one of those Scully centric religious episodes. Um, but I kind of dug it. I'm not going to say I did not like it. Let me just flip there. Real freaky beginning. Okay, so All Souls, Scully is forced to fall back on her Catholic faith and confront the loss of her daughter Emily from those two very boring episodes from earlier in the season, after Father McHugh asks her to assist a family whose adopted daughter has died. So this one gets a 7.7 rating on IMDb. Story by Billy Brown and Dan Angel, and then the teleplay is by Fred Sputnitz and John Shabazz. A lot of people worked on this, and directed by Alan Coulter. So the beginning of this episode was real freaky because you got this girl who's, I guess is she paraplegic, and
Yeah,
she definitely can't walk.
she's paraplegic and she's also got like some kind of mental problem.
Yes,
I think maybe she has like severe cerebral palsy or something, but she can't walk and she
yes,
can't talk.
yeah, until she can,
Yeah,
until she's found out in the middle. The father sees her out in the middle of the street with her hands up in this kind of praying um, pose, and she just gets seen. She turns into flames or whatever. Like she's turned into ashes, basically, after a lightning strike. No, I'm saying lightning strike after a baptism is never a good thing. Okay, so this is
no.
Scully front and center episode, um, and it's character centric. I dig it because um, um, it's Scully just doing the detective work herself, One thing that I mean, it was nice to see Mulder in the episode, but I wouldn't have minded it if it would have just been Scully trying to figure this out on her own. You know, eventually she does call Mulder in for help, and again, they do that switcheroo that we've seen quite a few times when it comes to religious issues. Although I did have a gripe with this, which is when it comes to other religions and other faiths, Mulder's all in. He's just very much anti-Christian religion, and then he becomes very skeptical and he plays the Scully role. Whereas Scully's much more open to this idea of there being angels and demons and whatnot. And Mulder thinks that this guy, Father Gregory, is responsible for the murder of these girls because it ends up, another girl who also has these severe issues has the same fate. She just kind of disappears into
Her
ashes.
sister. Her
Yes, it's
sister.
her sister, right? Because aren't there like four pairs of sisters or something?
Yeah, well, originally she's only thought to have a twin, and the
Mm-hmm.
twins in the hospital, and she dies in the hospital under similar circumstances.
Yes,
But the thing is, both the girls were adopted, and they
yes,
start digging into their family background and find out that they were actually two of quadruplets,
yes,
and so
exactly.
then they start looking for the other girls.
Yes, and there's this social worker who's kind of trying to help these girls, but then we get this little twist, that maybe the social worker isn't out for their best interest, and Father Gregory is the one that's really trying to protect them by kidnapping them and keeping them in this little hideaway spot. So it all breaks down to this basically that these are very pure girls, in the sense like their spirit is pure because of, they came to Earth with all these disabilities. And the social worker is the devil or a demon of some sort. Sorry. Um, and he's trying to take these girls off the earth. I like the concept, except that it's like, why these girls? It's like this. Whenever you get into stuff dealing with big religious overtones and then try to narrow it down to like, this is the girl that's, the purest angel on earth, it becomes convoluted because, you're going for something so big as God and then something so small as like four girls with, severe mental retardation and physical disabilities. Okay, whatever. It's silly. But I did like it as a character episode of Scully, one, trying to figure this out on her own, two, having to reconcile her faith again and believing in seeing these things that, again, it's been a bit of the season five theme. Scully sees shit. Okay, Scully keeps uh, having her scientific mind tested more and more, which makes it even more frustrating when she goes back into old Scully, in some episodes where she's, right away questioning Mulder about his wild theories. In fact, I just watched an episode last night where he called her out on that. He's like, man, every time I come up with a theory, I'm right like 98% of the time. Why can't you just give me the benefit of the doubt at least once? Um, but what do you call it? So I like that interplay. Like the story itself, it's like whatever for me. It did have some nice effects. I like the Nephilim effect because
Yeah.
that's such a crazy passage in the Bible. I think it's in the book of Ezekiel, maybe, where the prophet Ezekiel talks about, it's either Ezekiel or Isaiah, where the prophet talks about this creature that comes down from these wheels inside the wheel and blah, blah, blah. And this creature comes down and he has the face of a lion and the face of a bird and he's got like four faces at once. And it's difficult to imagine what it is that he was seeing or what it is that he was smoking, but in either case, he saw something wacky that he wrote down, and they did a really good job, showing that as this face was this Nephilim was spinning around, and it was cool to see Mulder be wrong. He was after this Father Gregory, thinking that this is just a plain old, you know, old pervert kidnapping some girls, doing damage to them. He went for the straight line, whereas Scully's like, no, there's something more to this. There's something a bit, you know, spiritual in her case, but if the roles were flipped, it would be paranormal. So I dug it for these reasons. The flip does get old a little bit. When it comes to her religious side and Mulder being totally atheist, but this was done well enough that I really liked it. I even wrote best religious episode by far, and it hit all the right emotional beats. They actually made that whole Emily thing worth it because those episodes were so boring. But the guilt that Scully felt for not being able to save Emily and essentially kill her off. She had to just kill this girl. It came back, and it came back in a really strong way. So definitely the Gillian Anderson season as far as acting, and she won, right? Was it this season that she won the Emmy, or was it season 4? I think it's this season that she won her Emmy for Best Actress. Um, but if it was season 4, hey, she just continued on that great acting train and becomes a standout for me. So I gave it 4.5. I really liked All Souls. Usually, these type of episodes I'm not a big fan of, but this one I kind of dug.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about this one actually. Pretty forgettable episode all in all. It basically it just took like a Bible story and transplanted it to modern times and
Hmm.
adapted it to the X Files. Like there really wasn't much to it. Um, the Scully center part is nice, I guess, but I really didn't care at all about the fate of these girls. Actually, we don't. Basically, like we meet them and they die. So there's not really a lot to get attached to in terms of who the real victims are in this thing. Also, I felt that the villain was pretty much telegraphed from the beginning. The fact that the social worker was Satan. So that big reveal, I didn't really find to be much of a twist at all. And we've been down this territory before, the whole Catholic trip and how Scully and Mulder approach it differently. Um, I think we've been down that road enough times that you really need to bring something dramatically different to the table in order for that to really work. So I'd kind of actually go thumbs down on this episode.
Well, at least, Pete, there's one saving grace. I mean, we get more Mulder porn references because he was hurrying Scully along. Because this was kind of a reverse of that episode about the cockroaches, where Mulder kept calling Scully. This time, she kept calling him. And
Yeah.
I think one time he was in a pay booth or something, payphone booth. It was raining, and he had to hurry back to watch a movie called A Decade of Dirty Delinquents at the theater. Um, so there's a little bit of that, but I get you. I totally get you. It's definitely a yeah. He's going to a triple X theater to watch a decade of dirty delinquents. Good for him. It's this movie right here. Whoops. How do I do this? Oh God. One second, Pete. My computer just went nuts. Um, but yeah, like you said, I mean, you're totally right. It's a retread of a whole lot of stuff. There you go. There's a scene
Ah.
right there. A decade of dirty delinquents, 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. Triple X. Okay, so he had to rush back. Like Scully, I'll get back to you. You can figure it out. You're smart. You're a smart girl. Um, but yeah, I see what you're saying, and I think this is around the time, and we'll probably discuss this a lot more when we get to season 6, where you can see the wear and tear a little bit of a show that's been on for 5, 6 years, where we've gone over this territory before. I get that, we're trying it from a different angle. Uh, put another director in there, another writer in there, and see if they can mine something new out of this same theme or out of this same angle. But been there, done that. But of all the ones
Yes.
that had this theme, I think I like this one the best so far. I think there's one more religious episode coming up, but I can't remember. But if not, this is probably my favorite one out of all of them. But it's not my
Yeah.
favorite X Files theme at all.
Yeah, they did show Scully getting confession for the first time in Donkey's Ages.
Oh yes, she had a lot of Catholic guilt, man.
Yep.
A lot of Catholic guilt. Anyway, so now we move on to another episode here, episode 18, which is called the Pine Bluff Variant. And it premiered on May 3rd, 1998 to 18.24 million people, written by John Shaban, and it doesn't say here who directed it. Oh no, he directed it too. And it has an 8.4 rating. Wow, nice. Scully fears that Mulder has committed treason when she witnesses him aiding the escape of a suspected terrorist. In reality, he has gone undercover to infiltrate a terrorist organization that has gotten its hands on a deadly biological weapon. This felt like a Tom Clancy written episode. But go ahead.
It was actually based on a novel by John LeClaire, The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, which
Mm,
was about a spy who basically was in the same position Mulder is in. Everybody thought he'd become a turncoat.
mm,
Um, yeah, so I was just mystified by this episode because I mean this was not an X Files episode at all. This was like the Man from Uncle or something.
mm-hmm,
Um, but yeah, it's one of those rare episodes where they show Mulder and Scully doing regular FBI shit.
mm-hmm,
So yes, what's happened is we get the introductory scene where they're trying to bring down this anti-government right wing militia. And Mulder seems to have the guy caught, but like caught dead red handed. And somehow he gets away. And Scully's pretty frustrated by all this. And as it turns out, Mulder is helping them. It's pretty irrefutable. He is working with them. As we find out, Skinner is the only one who's in on this, but Mulder is deep undercover because this group has this deadly toxin that can kill millions of people. And Mulder has their trust because of his. This is where the X Files comes in. Why Mulder undercover? Because he's got a reputation as kind of a nut who's paranoid about the government. I think that's where the X Files aspect comes in because he does have this reputation with conspiracy theorists and nuts like that. So they've actually reached out to him and they've put him undercover. Um, so it's mostly about Mulder trying to stop their plan before they figure out that he is actually undercover. And he has some close calls. He is in some pretty tense situations. Um, he manages to get out of it, I think, by pinning it on someone else, which was kind of an asshole thing to do. But I guess you got to do what you got to do. Um, but overall, this just didn't fit for me. It wasn't a bad story, but it just was so not the X Files.
I'm with you. It caught me by surprise. For me, this felt like the last couple seasons they had those late season, what do you call it, Skinner episodes.
Yeah.
that were just felt like spy thrillers, and they had a little bit of a paranormal angle, but not that much because we're following Skinner. And this one was the same. The beginning chase, where he's going after the guy, and then the guy escapes, and then you find out that Mulder kind of let him go. Kind of does hook you,
Hmm.
and I was like, wait. I even wrote here in my notes, like Mulder loses a suspect 2 feet from him, like, and then I said, wacky
Yeah.
fucking episode. It feels like a late season Skinner episode, but it ends up that Mulder is in deep cover, and they're bioweapons. So for me, that was a bit of the X Files too, the X Files angle, because X Files loves these bioweapons that are either released by the government or that some terrorist group wants to steal to do some biological warfare, terrorism, etc., etc. Um, and the episode gets really wild. They go all in. I love the torture scene with Mulder because the main dude is trying to know if he's really a spy or not. And then you find out the dude is bugging Mulder, so you're like, oh my god, Mulder's gonna be fucked because now dude knows that he's a turncoat. And that robbery scene was great. Reminded me a little
Yeah.
bit of the scene of Nolan's The Dark Knight. So you might have gotten some inspiration from that, and maybe also from
Yeah.
that
Yeah. It's a
Stanley
fake
Kubrick movie as
robbery.
well.
They break in not to steal the money, but to contaminate it.
They contaminate, yes. So it was really cool. There's a lot of twists and turns in this one, and the bioweapon is real. Like you get this photo here up top with the how it melts people away, and Pete is fond of saying this, so I'm going to steal his line. And I think it's the first time I've said it, which is just a great regular FBI work episode. Um, that I really, really enjoyed. I gave this one 5 stars. I really, really like this because it's good to just have a break from the usual stuff, and as long as the break is well done, I'm all for it. And proving again that the X Files can be many things, and it would work on just that level of a regular FBI show with a bit of a conspiracy angle. No aliens, no ghosts or demons or anything like that. Just a bunch of really bad guys in a lot of twists and turns and double crosses, everything you would expect from a good spy thriller. So I dug it. I dug it. I'm giving it 5 stars. It's gonna be tough, man, for me to come up with my top 8. Season 5 is really strong for me because I do have my
Yeah.
pick out of these 5 episodes for which one I think is the best. Because I got 7, I just haven't made up my mind what my number 8 episode is. But now that I just talked about the Pine Bluff variant, I might switch from the episode I had picked. So we shall see. Suspense, suspense. So let's move ahead to the next episode, which is Folie à Deux or Adieu. My French is not that great. And 17.63 million viewers watched this episode on May 10th, 1998. It was written by Vince Gilligan and directed by Kim Manners, as an 8.8 rating on IMDb, and it scared the shit out of me watching it. I had totally forgotten this episode. In the beginning, with that shadowy whatever that was, until you figure out what it really was, that scared the crap out of me
Hmm.
at the start. Because I have seen a shadow figure before, and it's not fun. Mulder, along with several other people, is held hostage by an office employee, who is convinced that his boss is a monster who has turned several of his coworkers into zombies. When the ordeal ends, Mulder also believes, despite his initial skepticism, that the man was not simply crazy, and that the boss actually is a monster. What a wacky episode! Oh my
This one
goodness.
was nuts.
I know. And my first note here was like, no, shadow figure. Maybe not the best episode to watch in the middle of the night. And yes, give you a little bit of my own paranormal history. I have seen a shadow figure, and it's scary as shit. I don't know what the hell it was. If it was a trick of the eye, All I know is that it scared the hell out of me, and it's not something you want to see, especially not in the middle of the night, which is when I saw it. So the beginning scene where the guy gets all freaking out, he's working trying to sell some bullshit over the phone, and you see him sweating because he knows his boss is this monster, and then it comes out and it's all pixelated and the camera is like all choppy, the editing is all choppy, and you're like, ah, that scared me.
Yeah.
So yes, this is what happens. So the guy thinks the boss is this monster, and he's able to see the zombies that the people have been turned into. Um, and then he holds everybody at this office space hostage, and he wants this his boss to show his true self, and he separates the living from the dead. Now, everybody else can't seem to see this. Everybody else just sees people as they are, but he's able to look at them and say, look, she's really not alive. She's a zombie, and the boss is also a cockroach looking thing that's really freaky. So you get this hostage situation, which is really good. Nice, tense stuff. X Files does those type of things really well, going way back to Dwayne Barry, which I really like. Um, But at the end of it all, because Mulder thinks that this guy is just nuts. Mulder actually gets stuck in there, as per the plot. You got to have Mulder in there. And at the end of it all, he catches a glimpse of the boss. And he's like, wait a second,
Mhm.
he's a monster. And it ends up that later the boss shows up to Skinner's office, saying, that he's not going to press any charges, blah, 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 blah. Because doesn't Mulder accuse the guy of being
Yeah,
a
he directly accuses him.
yes, uh, and Mulder ends up in the hospital. Although it's been so long, guys, I'm almost at the end of season 6, so forgive me if I forgot how it is that Mulder ends up in the hospital. Um, Let me see here. Yeah, okay. Meanwhile, Mulder follows Greg Pincus to the home of Gretchen Stance, one of his employee. As he looks out the window, he sees the monster advance behind Gretchen, its insect-like mouth aiming for the back of her neck. So Mulder shatters the window glass, goes in there. But how is it that Mulder ends up at the hospital? Let me see.
Because he's fucking crazy.
Oh yes, Mulder's admitted
They
to a
send
mental
him for
institution. It's not for
they yeah
it's
th- no,
yes.
because the Skinner's convinced, and Scully too, that he's having a psychological breakdown. That's where the title comes from. Folie deux is a delusion shared by two, and they
Okay.
believe that he's from the trauma of the hostage situation, that he's actually succumbed to Lambert's delusion. So
I
yeah, when
got
he goes charging through the window with a gun out and everything, it's like, man, he's lost his shit.
Yes, I got it here. Yep, yes. Because then Mulder draws his firearm in Skinner's office, believing Mulder has lost his
Yeah,
mind. Mulder's admitted to a mental institution. And that's where we get one of the classic X Files lines. Because Mulder's like, Scully, you have to believe me. Nobody else on this whole damn planet does or ever will. You're my 1 in 5 billion. So that's a classic X Files line. But what is it telling Scully? He's like, Scully, check the back of these people's necks. Like there's something going on. I don't know what it is, but well, I do know what it is. This guy's a monster cockroach. You got to believe me. And then you have this great
yeah,
climatic scene where it's the nurse, she ties him to the bed so he can't get up, the
yes,
window's closed, but fuck it, doesn't matter if the window's closed or not. Scully does check, she does see that there's something weird with these people in the back of their necks, and she charges in just enough time to shoot something in the dark. So again, more of Scully seeing stuff even though it was kind of dark, uh, and saving Mulder at the last minute, and the episode ends on that note. But good lord, I gave it 4.5 stars. I thought it was a great freaky monster of the week episode. One of the few that genuinely scared the shit out of me. So yes, loved it, loved it, loved it. And what about you, Pete?
Yes, yes, I love this one as well. I mean, first, like, what a weird idea. Just like a guy who's actually a giant blood sucking bug that turns people into zombies. But what I like about it was the setting. Um, this was set in like suburban America, track housing everywhere, and the company is a telemarketing company that sells, like, I don't know what they sell. The name of the company is Vinyl Right, but I was never 100% sure what they sold. But at any rate, it's telemarketing, which is like one of the most, mind-numbingly boring, banal jobs that a
Hmm.
person can have. And the idea that the boss is this like fake facade that is turning his employees into zombies, it just resonates with the setting, which is this telemarketing office in suburban America. So I like that. I like the idea that we know that this thing is a bug, and Mulder is like the only other person who sees it, because he does come off as completely crazy. He pulls his gun on the guy, jumps through a window waving a gun. Like, to all outward appearances, he's lost it. And the irony is, this is exactly what he's investigating. At the outset, the reason they're called in is not actually an X file. They're investigating this taped manifesto that was mailed to a radio station talking about a monster that hides in the light, and
Hmm.
that the author was demanding be played on the air 24 hours a day. And they mention this company. So they go to investigate, and then the hostage situation breaks out. And then it's in the hostage situation, as you previously mentioned, that Mulder actually sees the monster, but the only other guy who sees him gets shot. And they find a connection between the manifesto and this incident to a previous incident that happened in Florida, involving
Hmm.
an office space where there were similar accusations of hidden monsters. And they find out that the boss was actually present at these. So yeah, it's the setting, I think, really helps. Also the fact that he turns his employees into zombies, but nobody else can see it. I think he like summons them into the office, and then what's his name, Lambert? He can see the shadow of the bug in the office, which is really creepy. And then they come out and they're corpses, but to everyone else, they look normal. That was freaky as hell too. And then, of course, the fact that he gets to the nurse while Mulder is strapped down, that's pretty wild as well. Um, so I do believe there is there is a more of an ending to this, though, than just the bug getting shot. I believe um, the bug winds up at another office in another
Oh
small
yeah, yeah,
town
yeah.
doing
Yes,
telemarketing in the last scene. So the monster gets away and just does what he's
definitely.
always done and moves on to another town with another office full of victims.
Yeah, and another vinyl right
So yeah,
office. A man starts seeing a
great.
monster as well, acting like Gary Lambert did. He is heard whispering, "It's here," to someone on the phone, indicating he sees it, and the screen fades to black. Um,
Yes.
hmm.
Yes. So
But
terrific episode. One of the best monsters of the weeks.
now I was reading here on the wiki that the bug didn't really look that scary uh, when they put the suit on. So they had to do some serious post production work to bring up the scare level and avoid the episode becoming a comedy. And yeah, from the image we got here, I can kind of believe that. But I love that it was almost David Lynch like. David Lynch loves to do these things with like speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down, and with the right sound editing, which Lynch is also really good at. That shit was scared the shit out of you. You know, the things just coming at you fast and then slow and then fast. So that's a technique that David Lynch uses a lot to build mood and atmosphere and just scare the crap out of you with some of his wacky shit. By the way, you finished, or did you finish your Twin Peaks marathon?
Yeah, I finished season 2 last night. Actually, that was a
Oh,
weird ass episode.
well, yeah, that's when Lynch came back to the show. So what can you do?
Yeah,
So yes, one of the classic. And for those, well, X Files fans are many of them are Twin Peaks fans because it's almost like there's a little bit of they're kind of cousins in a way. And we get what do you think of David Duchovny as? What's her name? Denise.
that was too much. Yeah, too much.
Yes, guys. So if you're an X Files fan and you haven't checked out the Twin Peaks, do it. Do it. It's a interesting little show. Not my favorite show, but I had fun with it. And you get a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of Twin Peaks folks that end up in the X Files. And one of them is David Duchovny, which I did not know. So when I saw that scene, and he plays an FBI agent, he got a sex change at some point.
He
And
plays a DEA agent.
he's a
He
DEA. I
plays
thought
a
he
D.
worked for the FBI.
No, he's a DEA agent, and he didn't get a sex change. He's a cross dresser
He's a
because there's an
cross-dresser.
episode. Yeah, there's an episode where he appears as a man.
Oh, okay. So there you go. So you got Duchovny doing all sorts of stuff, and he does come back for season 3, which is really funny. But anyway, episode 20. We have arrived at the end. Okay, in more ways than one, because
Mhm.
that's the title of the episode too. And the end is one of those let it burn. Everything's fucked up. We're getting ready for the movie, but we're just gonna leave you with the biggest cliffhanger ever. Um, Investigating the murder of a chess player, Mulder and Scully meet a boy who may be the embodiment of everything in the X Files, which is this little boy here on the right. And you can see on the left there that this episode does have a fire. This premiered on May 17th, 2021. Okay, they got that date wrong. Okay, 1998 probably. Okay, written by Chris Carter, directed by R.W. Goodwin. Wow, it's got a 9 rating on IMDb and TV.com. So people really liked this, and I did too. I thought it was a really good mythology episode. Um, and it just gives us that setup. It gives us all the classic stuff we love: some cigarette smoking man, some Diana Fowley, some what's his name? Cigarette smoking man's kid, Spencer. Um,
Spender.
Spender, yeah, Spender gives us a little bit of everything. We even get some Krychek in there.
Yeah, I think the
Everything,
lone gunmen are in there as well.
everything. Yep, yep, yep. Yes, he is. Oh, yes, they are. I should say. Some well manicured man, a little bit of everything. So this is on you, Pete.
Yeah, yeah. I love this one. I kind of like the fact too that this is the last season that they filmed in Vancouver, and
Yeah.
it's actually the only episode where they actually had something set in Vancouver. So that was kind of a nice goodbye to their home for 5 years. But yeah, this is one of those classic cinematic episodes that begins with something seemingly innocuous and just unfolds and explodes and just packs so much into 45 minutes. So it starts at a chess tournament in Vancouver where a Russian grandmaster is playing a child prodigy and he's assassinated.
What the hell is this kid's
Um,
name? Gibson.
Gibson
Yes.
praise, yes. So this case falls to Jeffrey Spender, who is insistent that Mulder not be involved But Skinner kind of encourages him to get involved, and he attends Spender's briefing, and he deduces that the shooter wasn't actually trying to kill the Russian, he was trying to kill the kid. And
Mhm.
he points out that the kid was making his move and he got out of the way when he sat down. Otherwise, the shot would have been for him. So they start looking into this kid Gibson, and Mulder comes to the conclusion that the kid's a mind reader, and this is why he's so good at chess, because he can anticipate moves. And he has a partner in this, not just Scully. He is joined on this by an ex-girlfriend, Diana Fowley, fellow FBI agent and also famous David Duchovny co-star Mimi Rogers. They did a movie together in like 1989 called The Rapture, and it was basically like labeled Christian porn. It had like an NC-17 rating because there's like a lot of sex scenes, including like scenes between those two. So I swear that was a nod to that movie. But at any rate, because there is an old flame there, guess what? Scully is jealous as fuck. And this is why I actually really like the character of Gibson because he's pretty unfiltered. He doesn't have a problem saying what other. He basically just wants to be a normal kid. When they go to his place, I think he's watching like the Transformers or Batman, some
Actually, you know
kind of
what he's
cartoon.
watching, Pete? You know what he's watching? A bunch of Fox shows. He's watching King of the Hill, The Simpsons, and The Silver Surfer, according
Okay,
to the wiki notes here.
okay. Okay, but yeah, he complains to Mulder that yeah, I used to live in Malaysia. We didn't get anything good. All we got was Baywatch, and Mulder's like, "What's wrong with Baywatch?" And Gibson looks at him and is like, "You've got a dirty mind." And he
Yeah,
totally,
yeah.
yes, he totally picks up on the tensions between Fowley and Scully. It's like one of you is worried about what the other one thinks of the other one, and the other one is thinking the same thing. Like he just makes things so uncomfortable for the three of them. So I love the Gibson scenes in this. Other things we get in this: the smoking man is back. Krychek comes to get him to tell him all is forgiven with the cartel, and so he's back in the picture. He confronts Spender and reveals he's his father, which was kind of alluded to with the letter that he was writing when he was hiding out in Canada. But we didn't know. It could have been to Mulder, perhaps. But nope, it is to Jeffrey Spender. So, why are people trying to kill this kid? They believe that he has a gene that is the key to everything in the X files, like everything about paranormal normal phenomenon are these genes that Gibson has that are dominant in most humans. So the cartel wants him. Uh, Mulder and Scully try and keep him safe, but they fail because the smoking man, no matter how many times they try and humanize him, he always does something that makes you, oh, you're such a bastard. And yes, he kidnaps little Gibson at the end. His fate, yeah, kidnapping a little boy who can read his mind, and he's terrified. He don't want to be reading the smoking man's mind. So he knows he has nothing, no good intentions for him. The end result of all of this is that the Justice Department closes down the X Files, and in the final scene, they arrive to find their office torched. So the X Files isn't just closed, they burn their office to a crisp,
Well, they
destroying
they don't
Mulder's
burn
and
it.
Scully's work.
Smoky Man burns it.
Yeah, he does. He burns it with a cigarette. Yeah.
Yes, he goes down there. He gets the one file that he wants, which is on Mulder's sister.
Samantha. He takes
Yes, he
Samantha's
tells.
file. Yeah.
I think he tells Spen. Oh, I say Spender. Spencer or Spender.
yeah, Jeffrey Spender.
Yeah, he tells Jeffrey that he's his dad, right? Or no? Does he tell him yet? Or
Yeah,
no?
yeah, yeah, yes,
Tell him that he's dad, and then he burns the shit down. Yeah. So so much going on in this episode. Um, and the thing is, what I like is that Mulder and Scully is they're just two steps behind. You can't go up against the cigarette smoking man. He's devious, very devious,
yes,
and they do their best. And it's so sad. I hate when characters say this in shows, especially to little kids. It's like, don't worry, nothing's gonna happen to you. And it's like,
yeah,
something bad is gonna happen.
yeah.
Um,
And we do see Gibson again too. Like, bad shit has happened. They
oh yeah,
torture the
oh
poor kid.
yes, very bad things have happened to this little dude. So real sad. Um, Now, what are your thoughts on Diane? Sorry, you like?
Well, she's yeah. I mean, I like Mimi Rogers. She brings something to the series, but the thing is, with all of these informants that these allies that Mulder and Scully get, it's just like it becomes almost cliche how many of them wind up stabbing him in the back, which is what eventually happens with Valley. I like the fact that she's a fan of the X Files. She's like on Mulder's trip. She's a true believer, and I think this is one of the things about her that Scully resents because now here's Mulder with number one, a chick that he used to date, and number two, she's like totally like him. So she kind of feels like a third wheel when the three of them are together, and it definitely brings out her bitch side a bit.
Yeah, which I mean, I'm not a huge fan of when they do that to the Scully character of just making it like it's so obvious how much she's in love with Mulder, and to the point where she's just gets all bitchy and catty with. I mean, it's happened before. When they do it on a comic level, it's kind of funny when it's comedic. Like, well, going back to the cockroach episode, like she flew her ass down there real quick when she found out about Bambi. Because before she
Yes.
was fine with just giving him, some telephone help and, well, they didn't have Google at the time, but doing whatever research. And then she found out about Bambi and she was on the next plane over, but it was done in a humorous tone. But or that other one where they get kind of drunk with those two, was it those two friends that had this power during the moon or something, and everybody in the town went a little bit crazy, and then Mulder got real jealous.
Yes.
Uh, Scully got
The
real
horny
jealous.
beast.
Yeah, yes, yeah. But when they do it seriously, it seems so immature. Like for me, it felt out of character for Scully to get that bitchy. I did like her kind of not trusting her. I think that was cool, but mixing it with her just going into like schoolgirl rage, it it kind of diluted a little bit of her real concerns, which is, hey, she's too friendly. Like she's too much rah rah for us. Like Mulder, be careful. And then also Mulder, it seemed like he was out of character because okay, she's an old flame, but dude, you've been double crossed how many times? All the way back from Krychek, basically. Um, But how many times have people bugged you? And what's your motto? What's the motto of the fucking show? Trust no one. Um, so that's my only gripe I have with it. And I don't know. I mean, I know this was a big deal. I remember when Mimi was going to be on the show, and it was a big deal on TV Guide and everything. She's joining the show, but I don't really like her character that much. I think she doesn't have a lot of charisma. I don't think she's got good chemistry with Duchovny and Scully. Maybe because she's so tall. I don't know if it's the height or whatever. Like something about her, she doesn't have a lot of charisma. I like the blonde girl. What's her name? The one that worked for the United Nations. That
Yeah,
was the
Laurie Holden.
yes, she was great. Of course, Mr. X is great. Krychek in that, but I don't know. For me, it was a little bit of a fail. Uh, a little bit better than that British. Remember, like way back in I think it was season one with that guy who could start
Yeah, the
fire.
one with the guy who started fires. Yeah.
Yeah, better than her. I think fans really rejected her. But I can't recall if fans rejected Diane Fowley. I don't think she's a fan favorite. I should ask that in one of the X Files groups. And by the way, I always give shout outs to the X Files groups. I forgot to do it tonight because they always let us share the podcast in their groups. I got like four really cool ones. Um, and I'm going to ask that question like what their feelings are on Diane Fowley because nobody ever even talks about her. And I almost thought they killed her off. She does get shot. Is it this episode she gets shot, or is it in the
Yeah,
season?
she get that's how they she's protecting Gibson.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
she
thought
gets
that they
shot.
killed her off because she goes missing for a while until the episode "The One Father," and you realize, oh, she's working with the cigarette smoking man. Um, so I thought, I guess fans kind of rejected her and they just kept her off screen as much as possible. But anyway, that's just my feelings on her. Not a big fan of Gibson. I know he becomes kind of big in the season opener, and then he shows up again. I think later in season seven or something. Um, it's kind of cool. They did give a lot of love to the fans. Okay, so here's a few little behind the scenes stuff that I thought was cool. One is like Pete said, is the final episode of the X Files to be shot in Vancouver. So the next time the series would return would be for the second X Files movie, almost a decade later. So long time. Before they would be back in Vancouver. And then the episode features a pan over a wall in the X Files office, which with pictures of many people previously seen on the series. So you got the I Want to Believe poster, but you also got a newspaper article about Dwayne Barry and Victor Toombs, as well as pictures of those characters. Um, and for that scene inside the stadium, the crew invited locals from Vancouver to be extras for that scene. The stadium holds roughly 17,500 people, and it was filled. And the crew had to turn away about 5,000 plus fans. So that's really kind of cool. And yes, this is the first episode to feature Diane, and the last one to be directed by R.W. Goodwin, who up to that point had directed every season finale. Okay. Um, and another reason why they burnt the the what do you call it the office down, okay, or at least according to this, is because they were going to start filming in LA and they just didn't want any continuity stuff. So, I mean, I guess it's part of the plot, but at the same time, they figured, hey, it serves a double purpose because if we burn the office, when we eventually get the office back up in LA, hey, it's a new office, so the nitpicky fans won't be like, hey, that the poster was on the left, not the right, and stuff like that. So that's a little bit of like some backstage stuff, which I thought was really cool. And yeah, Dirty Diana, I call her. Poor Scully. I love how Mulder talks down to Spender the whole time, which is really cool. And he's another character that I really didn't like. I didn't like him in the original run of the show. Still not a fan of him in this rewatch, or even when I watched it a couple years back. He kind of redeems himself in season six, but I'm happy to see him go. Um, but Scully in love with Mulder. She's in love with Mulder, but afraid that if she loses him, her professional career will make no sense. That's kind of, the line that they're going for. Um, and give props to William B for staying in character while Krychek does that close drive by. That was a cool scene, man. And I watched it about like 2, 3 times to see if it was like some blue screen, or they just what's the word, superimposed, or whatever, they put William B. Davis there afterwards. But it looked like he was really just standing there while Krychek drove the car, because he so much, he wants to kill this guy. I think he was with the well manicured man, and he drives like maybe a foot from him, and William B is like cool as a cucumber. So that was a cool scene. Um, so a lot of good stuff. Definitely, I gave it 5 stars. Definitely one of the best mythology episodes of the series, in that we have had for a while. But season 4, I thought, was pretty weak with the mythology episodes. So, y'all, that brings us to well, no, first that brings us to skip and watch, and then we'll give you our general thoughts on season 5, and then our top 8. So, Mind's Eye, Pete, what is this for you? Skip it or watch it?
Mind's Eye. I'm gonna say watch, even though it's not like a remarkable episode. Definitely, anytime they have like a really quality guest star with a decent story, it's worth watching.
I'm with you. I gave it a watch. I just took it off my list. As we're talking, I took it off of my top 8, and I put another episode in its place. So I'm going to even give it an honorable mention. It would have been my ninth top episode of this season. As a one off, I think it's really cool. Nice character episode. All Souls.
Skip.
I feel you on that one. You know what? As much as I liked it, I think I'd give it a skip too. I give it a skip because it worked for me only because I'm invested in these characters for as long as I have been. But I think if it's just as a one off, it comes off kind of cheesy. Uh, Pine Bluff variant.
Skip.
Oh, I give this one a definite watch. I loved it. Something totally off to left field. Uh, cool spy thriller. As a one off, it works. Folie à deux. What about Folie à deux?
Oh, definite watch.
I'm with you. Scary as shit. And then, of course, we got
Yeah.
The End, which is the last episode there.
Yeah, yeah. Must watch. You're gonna watch the movie, you gotta watch this. Sets everything up.
I agree. In a really good Mythos episode. And, last episode filmed in Vancouver, so you can watch it even for those historical reasons. So, general thoughts on season 5, Pete. Well, how do you feel about this season?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty strong case to be made that this is the best season of the series. It started with some really strong mythology episodes, ended with a really strong mythology episode. It had some acknowledgement of previous episodes. You had the return of Modell in there. Um, it had, a couple really retro episodes with the origins of the Lone Gunman and the origins of the X Files. Some cool Monster of the Week episode like Folie à Deux and Bad Blood. It had some comedy, and it had some pretty out there episodes, which kind of set the tone for season 6, particularly postmodern Prometheus. So yeah, it had a little bit of everything. The only thing I would say is that um, well, this is what I like about this season. They had already filmed the movie, so it had the most direction of any of the previous seasons. Like they knew they had to take the story from where season 4 ended to where the movie begins, and It really felt like they had direction, they knew where they were going. Except for the Emily story arc, I think the mythology stuff felt like really solid. Like we know what we're doing, we know the story we're trying to tell, and we're not just making this up as we go along. Like we're focused. So big props for the mythology episodes in this, and yeah, it gets major points for. And who knows? This might even be where Vince Gilligan got the idea to do a show like Breaking Bad, which was really one of the first of its kind to tell like a cinematic beginning, middle, and end type story that was thought out in advance, because that's exactly what this season feels like.
I agree, and even little touches like the episode where what was that the Pine Bluff variant. Mulder gets tortured. He gets his fingers all fucked up, and then the next episode they had that continuity. They had that they had that thought of like, oh, his finger is still bandaged in the next episode. So even little details like that show that they really tried to make this as tight of a season, as connected of a season as possible. And I'm with you.
Yeah.
I am keeping a little list here of the seasons, and I just put season 5 up top. So far I got season 4, and then 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 5. I wasn't a huge fan of season 4, and and one of the reasons I wasn't a big fan of season 4 is something that I've mentioned before on the podcast. Is that Carter and company wanted to kind of do the movie after season 4 and kind of bring the X Files to an end. And Fox was like, "Yo, we got a hit, so you better keep making this shit." And he did. And season 4 does meander a lot because he realized, okay, I got to meander till season 5, which I can then build up to the movie. So you're building up to something. This season feels like it's got pace, it's got action, it's got character development that's going somewhere. It's got some of the best performances by the main cast. They're really just putting out their best foot because we just we just spent millions making a movie. So we want to maybe grab more audience and make sure those people go to that movie that we've just spent a lot of money on. So definitely, let's put our best foot forward. So I dug this season a lot, and for a lot of fans, Pete, you may know this. Season 5 for them is like the last real true X Files season. A lot of fans don't really give anything after the movie credit as far as being like that original creepy scary X Files. And after watching season 6, as much as I have been enjoying it, I'm almost done it. I think I'm on episode 22. I get it. The show definitely changed its tone a lot when it got to LA. There's still some really great episodes, but it's not the same. It's no longer that creepy cult show. In this season, the glossiness of this season shows it's going Hollywood. It's becoming a different show than it was through most of season 4. Um, so let's, but definitely, 5-star season, the best one I've seen thus far. Let's get to it though. Let's do our top 8 of
Right?
the season. My first, I'm going to start here. I'm going with Folie à Deux. I had a real rough time picking that number 8 episode because there's so many. So I was kind of between this and the Pine Bluff, and then one of the mythology ones could have gone on there. I was thinking of putting the one with the blind girl. So there was a whole bunch, but then after talking to Pete right now about Folie à Deux, I put that down there. It's a solid monster of the week, not the best, not classic monster of the week, but real solid. Of all the solid ones, I thought this was worthy of the number 8 slot. What about you? What's your number 8 slot?
My number 8 is Kitsuguri Fox Hunts.
Mm.
Uh, yes, yes. I love when
I'm surprised you put it
they
that far down.
yeah, well, this was a great season, and the mythology episodes really shone this season. So that they took up a lot of space. But yeah, no, I like that they brought Modell back, and that he, in fact, wasn't the main villain, and in fact was kind of being played. But yeah, great to see a sequel to one of my favorite Monster of the Week episodes. Plus, I owe this because I completely forgot to put Pusher in my top 8 when it was like one of my top 3 for the season. So, giving Modell some love.
I gotcha. Now, next episode may be controversial, but I really dug it mainly because I don't remember having seen it, and I've seen the X Files all the way through twice now. Uh, and that's Travelers, uh, which starred the dude there from Kolchak, the Night Stalker, which whose name I always forget. Pete's
Right.
good with these.
Darren McGavin.
Darren McGavin, and it's been something that I've mentioned a couple times, on this podcast. If there were to be an X Files spin-off, you know,
Hmm.
like they do or with Star Trek, have the many different versions of Star Trek. I would love to have a how it all began, like, you know, go
Hmm.
way back when X Files show, and then they give me an episode with that. I'm like, oh, cool. That's exactly what I was thinking about, and I loved it. I thought it was awesome. Gave us the beginning of the X Files, how it all started, and it made me want to see more. So that's a show I would watch, especially now that very unlikely that Gillian Anderson is going to come back to play Scully again. Just kill any future stuff. Give us one of these prequel. Give us a prequel show. So I loved it. Dug it. Go ahead. Number 7 for you.
Number 7 for me is the Red and the Black, which was the second half of the mid-season two-parter. Um, yeah, this is one of those like because the mythology episodes they're all good because they have well they're not all good but most of them are good because they have that like cinematic quality to them, but oftentimes the stories just aren't really all that satisfying because they purposely try and keep it ambiguous to milk it. But in this season, with the exception of the Emily story, they were using these mythology episodes to really drive the story towards the movie. And yeah, this one did it. I liked the first part a little better, but this definitely had its moments.
Which episode was that?
Red and the Black, the second part of the mid-season two-parter.
Dude, the special effects for that episode were fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Yes, I agree. My number 6 is another one that may be controversial, but I dug it. And it's Detour, where Mulder and Scully are out on a team building exercise. They're supposed to be going to a team building exercise, but they an X Files kind of lands on their lap as they reach this kind of wooded area, and there's this weird woods monster. Again, another one that freaked me out as a kid and freaked me out watching it now. I love the special effects for this with the red eyes. Red eyes will just freak you out at any time. And not like the strongest episode as far as the monster himself, but
right.
I like the whole Mulder and Scully just out in the woods. It's kind of a rehash of the episode where they're looking for Big Blue out in the lake. But that was a bit shorter. That scene, where they're stuck on this little island, hoping to not get eaten by their version of the Loch Ness monster. And this was way more extended, you know. And yes, it takes some elements from Predator and takes some elements from that episode, so it kind of stole from itself. But it gives it more of an extended scene of this Mulder and Scully relationship, and I felt it was an important development in Scully's character because she sees the thing, you know, and she can't just keep denying that there's some weird shit out there forever because it gets to be a bit silly after 4 seasons. We're into season 5, and Scully can't just be completely an unbeliever the whole time. So I dug it for all these reasons. I think it's just a entertaining show episode. Go ahead, sir.
All right, so we are on number six. Number six, I'm going to cheat actually, and I'm going to go with Redux 2 and 3 because it is a two-parter, but it's a two-parter that, man, it has the same title. So I'm just taking this as one episode. Season 4 ended with a really strong finale, really good cliffhanger, and they pretty much delivered on all the results that they needed to get the ball rolling for a season that was going to run into the movie. We find out what happened to Mulder. We get it. It sets the stage too for Mulder's coming skepticism throughout this season, which of course um, by the end of the movie that's complete. But yeah, I think again these two parters, man. In this season, they still had that cinematic value to it, but they also really delivered in terms of story. You didn't walk away from it feeling like, well, so nothing really happened after all that, you know. It changed the tone of the show. So
Yeah, yeah, and it definitely built on that Mulder being a skeptic for a little while, and a lot of delivery, and I thought it was better than the setup episode from the end of season 4. I really dug this season opener. I think I liked Redux 2 a little bit more than Redux 1, if I can recall. All right, my number 5, I guess, is Kill Switch. And I had mentioned many times that I don't think the X Files does these tech episodes very well, and they're the ones that come off as the most dated because hey, it's a tech episode, and you got like this big box of a computer, these big boxy looking cell phones.
yeah,
So they're the ones that are at the most risk of feeling dated. But this just was done so well. The story was so cool. I love the chick that was in there who was playing the hacker girl, and the lone gunman totally coming in their pants when they see her, and pairing her up with Scully in the end, and then Scully doing Scully foo and the virtual reality that Mulder gets stuck in. So
hmm
there's so many cool scenes, so much cool stuff, and even the special effects, with the missile coming down and blowing up the little, what do you call it, the little trailer that they were in. So a lot of cool scenes, a lot of
that was a really cool scene.
yeah, real well done. Um, so cool stuff all around. Dug it. Doesn't feel aged, even if it's like you can tell it's from the '90s, but it's like I think I had said when we were reviewing it, it's like watching Terminator 2. Like, yes, it's from the '90s, but the story is so cool that you can watch it tomorrow and it's still gonna be cool. So I dug it for these reasons, and more. Okay, so go ahead. It's on you, sir. Number 5.
Yeah, number five, Patient X, the first half of the mid-season two-parter that introduced us to Cassandra Spender in her Emmy-nominated performance, and her son Jeffrey, and ends with a bunch of people getting immolated by alien bounty hunters who are really creepy looking with their sewed-up mouths and faces.
Uh-oh, we're losing Pete a little bit. You there, sir?
No, I'm here.
Okay, no, because you were cutting out at the end of the last little bit that you said, but then
Yeah.
you cut completely here. So repeat that one.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I'm going with Patient X, which
Hmm.
introduces us to Cassandra Spender, Veronica Cartwright's, and it ends with a bunch of people getting immolated by alien bounty hunters who are really creepy looking.
Hmm. Yeah, if the regular bounty hunters weren't creepy enough, then we got the faceless ones, um, so they don't get infected
Yes,
with
the
the alien,
rebels, the
the oil
rebels.
goo. Yes. So adding more elements to the mythology just to
Yes,
confuse you a bit more. But basically, it's these guys that don't want. What is it that they don't want? I get so confused with the mythology.
they they're alien rebels. They're there
Yeah,
for
they just happen to be fighting a
the
civil
main
war with
aliens.
the. Yeah, they want to kill off everybody
Yeah,
that.
and so they want to fuck with them.
Yeah, they just want to fuck with
All
them
the
because they're
alien
killing
human
the
hybrids,
people that
everyone
the
that they've been
aliens are
experimenting
trying.
on. Yeah,
They're trying to kill the people that the aliens are trying to abduct in order to do their hybrid experiments on. That's basically their whole purpose.
mm-hmm.
And the alien
Yes,
bounty hunters are there to kill the hybrids that are already in existence, something like that. At some point, when I think I got the mythology right, then I don't have it right. It's really wacky, and it doesn't help that I'm drinking some Kataya right now, because it's making my brain kind of do circles. So number 4, I'm gonna go with Kitsu Nagari. I really dug this episode. Of course, the first part of it is a classic, but it's good to see our boy back, and it's good to see that twist because it caught me by surprise. I mean, not really, because you can tell the blonde girl's a little bit off. Was it his sister, I think. Um, but you still thought he was up to something,
yeah,
and,
twin sister.
and she's the one that's really up to something, and just a cool episode, cool cat and mouse episode, and nice way again, strong season opener. A lot of the standalones were great at the beginning of the season. Go with number 3, sir.
Number 4, I believe.
Oh yeah, you're number 4 because I started. Yeah.
Yes. Number 4, going with Bad Blood. This was a riot. Uh, Good semi-comedy episode. Actually, it is a comedy episode, but it's also it has some horror. It is a vampire episode, and an interesting style of storytelling, telling an X file from very different perspectives of Mulder and Scully. Not quite a rehash of Josie Chung's From Outer Space because that story wasn't really told by Mulder and Scully. That was told by everyone they interacted with. This is their own personal different take on a case where Mulder's got himself in some deep shit.
I love this episode. I ranked it a little bit higher, and yeah, I'm with you. Like Jose Chung is everybody else's version of Mulder and Scully, but it's so great to see their versions of themselves, or of the other, uh, and so many great lines. And that's a great one if you're one of those folks that love the memorable lines. It has so many. Number 3 is one that I don't think Pete was so keen on, but I really loved, which is The Unusual Suspects, because again, another Origins episode, like Travelers, and it's the origin of the lone gunman, how these guys all got together, and kind of maybe. you can have this fan theory that maybe it's the origin of how Mulder got so fucked up because he seemed to be pretty straight laced until he got hit with that gas and started seeing
Yeah,
aliens that were really dudes in hazmat suits. So, it's got a little bit of that going for it. So it's set in the 80s and it shows how it is that the lone gunman met Mulder and how the three of them got together because they're trying to help out this damsel in distress who, is being chased by the government. And she does come back in season 6, which is really cool. Not a really good episode, but cool that they brought her
she
back.
does. Yes.
Um, all right. Now, this is your number 3?
This would be my number three. Yes, and it is wow. Yeah, postmodern Prometheus. Um, I the top three were really difficult, actually. I mean, I thought about this almost as number one because it is just such an out there episode. But for my number ones and twos, I like to go with episodes that are a bit more representative of the X Files. And of course, what I loved about this is it's just so out there. But I love the style. It was had a very Tim Burton style feel to it. Just full on breaks off bananas.
Yeah, I feel you with having a hard time ranking these, and I'm curious to know what you put above postmodern Prometheus. That'd be really nice. My
Yeah,
number 2 is Bad Blood for pretty much the same reasons that uh, Pete said. And again, the season 5 is just memorable line season. There's so many great lines in this episode, so many memorable scenes, so
yeah,
many memorable scenes. A lot of the real famous X Files memes come from uh, season 5. And what is wrong with like what can you say bad about this episode? Even the fact that they got the vampires right. So this is almost like a vindication from that horrible season 2 episode, I think, where Mulder and his girlfriend at the time just kind of smooch for 40 minutes and nothing interesting happens. So pseudo comedy, but kind of horror at the same time. Kind of weirdo episode. Love it, love it, love it. And your number 2 would be
yes. My number two is Folladu. Um, Great monster, really scary episode. Um, nice subtext with the setting being in the suburbs at a what you would call a call center. It really it was great horror, but it also kind of captured like the banality of that type of existence and how somebody could wind up
is the
thinking
monster.
that, oh my god, my boss is a monster, is turning people into the dead. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was pretty great.
Now, it caught me by surprise that episode. I had completely forgotten that it existed, and it's so cool that towards the end of the season they they put a lot of strong episodes towards the end of this season. Because a lot of times with the X Files, it's like before they hit you with the 1-2, and around episodes 22, 20 something, they got a lot of really crap episodes, from like 16 to 19 or so. But this one, maybe because it was a shorter season too, only 20 episodes, they just, once they got things moving, they just didn't let up in these final episodes. So I was really surprised to see that towards the end, and I think if it were another season, that this episode would have been closer to the beginning. And my number 1 is the one I didn't mention yet. Obvious, clear winner, postmodern Prometheus. Unbelievable episode. Uh, just breaking the fourth wall episode. Meta episode. And Pete made a great point how it sets up a lot of what happens in season 6 and even more in season 7, where the episode became, well, not the episode, the X Files became really self aware somewhat to a detriment, you could argue. Some fans will argue that it became too self-aware. It became too funny. Like, where's my Victor Toombs? Where's my real creepy, scary, keep you up at night X Files? Wait till season 8, you'll get it back. But this is it, and this is done masterfully well. I gushed about it when we reviewed it. I'm not going to gush over it again, but this episode touches me on a lot of levels. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful stuff. Chris Carter at his best. And what's your number one, sir?
My number one is The End,
What's
which
that?
I think was both the best season finale and the best mythology episode since the season 3 finale.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
what can I say?
strong
It had
word.
so much going on. Like I said, I like the way Gibson makes everyone all awkward, but you got the return of the smoking man, you have the destruction of the X Files. Um, yeah, I mean, there's just so much going on here. And again, Ode to Dallas, got to get that cliffhanger in there. And this one, we know we're not going to have to wait until September for because we got the movie coming up. What could the movie possibly do with this situation now that the X Files are no more?
Yes. No, guys, I didn't put any mythology episodes on the list only because, like Pete said, it was so hard to make a list. So we had, I think, the same feeling. It's just we went in opposite ways. He put a lot more of the mythology on there because it was so hard to pick, and I didn't put any because it was so hard to pick. So if you join them all together, you just have an awesome fucking season of standalones. I think I focused more on the standalones and Pete more on the mythos. But you're getting that. You're getting a great season of mythos and mythology together. Hard to go wrong with season 5. Definitely X Files at its very best. Definitely dug pretty much all of it except for that crappy the Christmas Carol and Emily. That's really really the low point for me of the season.
Yeah,
But there wasn't one standalone where I was like, "Oh my god, this is dreadful." Maybe not as good as, but definitely not dreadful. I don't think I gave anything less than 2 stars, aside from those couple episodes. Now, Pete, I just saw this as you were talking in one of the X Files group. I was watching the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Netflix when guess who I saw? Season 2, Part 7. Hey, it's our Smoky Man. So there's
oh
Wayne
yeah,
B in Sabrina, which they canceled, right? Did
yes.
they cancel that?
They did, and it was terrible because the last season was really good, but the series finale was just like one of the worst I've ever seen.
Oh, uh-oh. What happened here? I'm getting a message. Oh, never mind. Sorry. Got a message from Facebook that Warner Music Group Rights Management released their claim on your video. Okay, whatever. Anyway, so that's it, y'all. Retro Review Season 5, episodes 16 to 20. We got through them all. Like I said, maybe next week we'll do the movie. Let's find out about our friend Scott if he can join us. He's a real cool dude, has a really great podcast. Um, he may be able to join us. If not, we'll just go ahead and gush about the movie. It'll be a gush fest because I'm pretty sure both Pete and I really, really love this movie. I've seen it twice
Yeah.
already since I've been watching these X Files episodes, and maybe I'll watch it one more time, before we get to it. Although I think I just want to finish season 6 because I'm almost
Oh,
there. I'm
really?
about like,
I'm on season 7 already.
oh goodness, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
took that month off, so Took me a little
I
bit to get back.
watched season 7, episode 6 today.
Oh goodness, yeah, I got to get into that. Um, So, thank you, folks, for supporting us. Thank you, those that share this and our loyal listening audience. We will be back hopefully next week, but if not, definitely the week after, talking about the X Files Fight the Future. Trust no one, not even Diane Fowley. Bye.
Bye bye.